A motel key, a lighthouse photo, a missing weekend. She thought it was an affair. What she uncovered was older, stranger, and it forced her to choose who she wanted to be. Laura Merritt did not go looking for trouble. It arrived in the shape of a brass motel key, room 12, Harbor Light Inn, tucked inside the glove box of her husband Ethan's truck. The key was smooth from use and smelled faintly of seawater and cheap lemon cleaner. She found it by accident, reaching for the registration after a fender bender on Elm Street. She held the key in her palm like a hot coal. Their marriage of 18 years had survived layoffs, a miscarriage, and a slow season at Laura's bakery. That night, Ethan set 2 bowls of chili on the table and told the story of a customer who tried to pay with Canadian coins. Laura nodded, laughed on cue, and watched the way his eyes skated past hers. He smelled like sea air, a detail that could be explained by half the county, but felt like a private tide creeping under their door. After dishes, he went to the garage to fix the squeak on the door track. Laura, hands still in soapy water, took her phone, typed Harbor Light Inn, and mapped the distance. At midnight, when Ethan snored, she opened his wallet. 2 receipts: gas at Breakwater Shell, black coffee at Seaside Diner, both dated last Saturday, both at times that overlapped the 4 hours he'd told her he was helping Nate move a couch. Her chest thudded like a second clock. She returned the wallet, slid the key into a tea tin, and sat on the kitchen floor with a towel around her shoulders, as if she'd come in from rain. On Tuesday, Laura drove to Harbor Light Inn. No plan. Just the kind of stubborn curiosity that made her good at bread watching, waiting, trusting her hands. The inn squatted behind a fringe of dune grass, wood shingles silvered by salt. Inside, the lobby smelled like old novels and floor polish. A bell tinkled when she stepped in, and a woman with a braid and a lighthouse tattoo on her wrist looked up from a ledger. "Checking in?" the woman asked. "Actually, I think my husband left a key here," Laura said. She set the brass key on the counter and tried to make her face ordinary. The woman smiled. "Room 12. He's a regular." The words landed like hail. Regular. Laura leaned closer. "What does he do here?" The woman's smile thinned. "Ma'am, we don't ask questions, but it's not what you think." She tapped the ledger. "He always books the same time slot, Saturday afternoons, 2 hours, no overnights." Not what you think. Laura didn't know what she thought. Only what the word regular did to her knees. She walked back to the parking lot. The ocean thundered somewhere beyond the dunes. On the path to the lighthouse, a couple took photos against a sky bleached to bone. Laura followed the path as if the wind were pulling a string tied to her ribs. At the base of the lighthouse, a small corkboard held faded flyers, whale-watching tours, a lost golden retriever, and a photograph of a young woman tacked with a rusty thumbtack. Missing, Sloan Riggs, last seen July 19, 2003. Laura stared. The girl's eyes were steady, almost curious, as if she were the one asking questions. Someone had scrawled in ballpoint at the bottom, "Still searching, D." On impulse, Laura ducked into the Lighthouse Museum. Dusty glass cases, a brass telescope, postcards no one bought. Behind the counter sat an older man in a cable-knit sweater with forearms like rope. He glanced up, then back to a crossword. "If you're here for the view, stairs are to the left." "Do you know who keeps the missing poster fresh?" Laura asked. He tilted his head. "Sloane's father. Comes by twice a year. Never quits. Neither did he forgive the sea." Laura climbed the spiral stairs, the iron treads ringing underfoot. Halfway up, her phone buzzed, a message from Ethan. "Running late, love you." She typed nothing, slid the phone back, and kept climbing. At the lantern room, the glass panes made a slow halo of the horizon. The wind was a hand pressing against everything. On the railing, someone had scratched initials, E.S. The letters were old, pitted by salt. She pressed her finger into the groove and felt the ridiculous urge to cry. ES could be anyone. Ethan and Sloane, Ethan and Stephanie, someone else entirely. Our minds love bridges, where there are only gaps. At Seaside Diner down the hill, Laura ordered coffee and the kind of pie that is more memory than fruit. A waitress in pink sneakers poured refills without asking. Laura unfolded her napkin and then folded it again, as if precision could undo dread. The bell over the door chimed. Ethan walked in. He didn't see her at first. He took the booth near the window, the one with a view of the lighthouse's shoulder. Opposite him slid a man Laura recognized from the corkboard, older now, but the same jaw, the same eyes. Sloane's father. They did not hug. They sat with a careful gravity, like men who had practiced putting away hope and taking it back out. Laura watched as Ethan took an envelope from his jacket and handed it over. The older man opened it, his thumb catching on the flap. Photos spilled out. Not the glossy rectangles of vacations, but printed screen grabs dates stamped, lat-long coordinates in tiny font. The father leaned forward. Ethan pointed. The waitress hovered and retreated, reading the table the way a sailor reads sky. After 20 minutes, they stood, shook hands the way men do when they cannot fix each other, and left by different doors. Laura sat very still. It was possible, she told herself, that her husband was both faithful and a liar. Possible that loyalty had more rooms than she had ever toured. She paid and followed the father outside. "Mr. Riggs," she called. Her voice surprised her, steady, low. He turned, and grief flickered across his face in a way that had nothing to do with her. "I'm Laura," she said, "Ethan Merritt's wife." He nodded once. "He told me about you. Said you bake the kind of bread that makes a room feel warmer than it is." "What is he doing?" Riggs looked past her, toward the water that always pretended innocence. "Your husband finds things," he said, "not people, patterns. He volunteers with a group that tracks digital traces, traffic cameras, old message boards, currents. He keeps looking for Sloane in the ways the sea leaves fingerprints." He adjusted the envelope under his arm. "I don't know if I believe in answers anymore, but I believe in people who show up." On the drive home, Laura kept the radio off. The road wound through pine and scrub, and the sky lowered itself into evening like a tired bird. Then, in late October, a storm pulled the shore sideways. Piers splintered. Old things washed up a tire from nowhere, a crate stamped with a company that no longer existed, and a sealed glass bottle with damp paper pressed against the inside like a tongue. A boy found it near Silver Bay and brought it to his mother, who brought it to the harbor master, who called the museum, who called Mr. Riggs, who called Ethan, who called Laura because he had finally learned that some calls should not be carried alone. The note inside the bottle was a grocery list on one side, peaches, flour, razor blades, and on the other, in neat block letters, 3 lines, East Tide Pool after sunset, no crowds. The date at the top was July 18th, 2003. Laura felt the room tilt, not with jealousy this time, but with recognition. Keys are invitations, or warnings. The locket held a photo of Sloane on one side, and beneath the paper liner on the other, a name etched in desperate haste. R. Hollis. Riggs went pale. He told a story about that summer. About a girl who wanted to leave and a boy who didn't. About a meeting at the East Pools after sunset. About a shove that might have been a reach. About panic and the blind faith that the sea keeps secrets if you feed it enough of your shame. They did not find bones. The ocean is a tidy thief. "Room 12, Laura said. "We don't need it anymore." The clerk nodded as if returning a key were a kind of prayer. Epilogue. In spring, a plaque appeared near the lighthouse path. The tide turned. They walked back before the path disappeared, which is its own kind of wisdom. Epilogue. In spring,